Glad to stay with us. As petrol shortage characterized by long queues started to emerge in Lagos and other parts of the country, businesses and motorists have shared their worries. Checks by iBrandTV showed that some filling stations, especially independent marketers, did not have the product to sell to motorists and other consumers. It also indicated that those with commercial stocks increased their prices, ranging between 200 naira and 250 naira per litre, depending on location. This has seen black marketers enter the scene, selling the commodity for as high as 500 naira, while oil marketers said there had been a low petrol supply by NNPC Limited. This leaves much to be desired, and to join us to make sense of this development and look into the impact this has on businesses, we have Adetayo Adegbinde, the Executive Director and Convener, Power Up Nigeria. He joins us virtually. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, good morning, Perpetual. Good morning, Nigerians.
Good to have you today.
I'm glad to be here too.
All right, talk to us. What do you have to say about the recurrent fuel scarcity being experienced in the country?
It is a rather unfortunate situation for a country like Nigeria, who happens to be one of the major producers. And if you want to go spiritual, to see God as blessed us naturally the resources that we're not mindful of, and we're not able to utilize effectively. It's just rather unfortunate that we find ourselves in this kind of situation.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but why is it so? What exactly is responsible for this unfortunate situation?
Well, the funny part of it that initially started. We had the issue with
flooding,
Scarcity in Abuja and the northern part of the country, and the main excuse or the main explanation for that then was that the flooding that cut off Lokoja especially was the reasons why we could not transport fuel efficiently fast enough to other parts of the country from Lagos. So the incidents of appearances of fuel queues in Lagos now is something that nobody could explain, and incidentally nobody from the government has come out to say why. Though somebody, I think from
Ipman,
Regulatory Commission,
okay.
Regulatory Commission for the petroleum sector, came out I think yesterday or this morning to say that this fuel queue that's been experienced in Lagos is because of private tank farms. But then, we all understand that that's just trying to find something. There's no reason behind that. There's no reason why we should point fingers at private tank farms now, when we couldn't say in particular why fuel is not going out.
So what did you say about the private tank farms?
Say that again?
So what did you say about the private tank farms? What about them?
Well, the comments didn't explain in particular why the fault or why you should look at private tank farms. The only thing the person said was they had to pay for current scarcity in Lagos. Why? We can't understand that. Especially if you look at it from the point of view that even the allocations are supposed to be going up north cannot pass through Lokoja because of the flooding, in the past few weeks. So, it doesn't make sense. That's just it. It doesn't make sense.
All right. Well, we also have someone from Ipman, that's the president of Ipman, also speaking, saying that this is because they are trying to balance availability. They are trying to balance supply, because now that they have there are routes that some of these tankers can take to deliver this fuel to other parts of the country. So they're trying to balance supply. What do you think about that? Is that a good enough reason for this scarcity that we're seeing?
See, again, that doesn't make sense. We are talking about Lagos, which is probably where we have the highest consumption per day of petrol or fuel. So basically what we're saying is that Lagos already has its own allocation. So it doesn't have anything to do with whether there is a question from other or to other parts of the country, or what they're trying to say is that because fuel cannot get to Abuja, then you are withholding the allocation that's supposed to go to Lagos. That doesn't make sense. So basically, what I'm saying is that nobody is coming out with it.
If I may come in,
knows the truth are not coming out with the truth. So yeah.
If I may come in here, I remember it's situations like this that precede increase in price of fuel. Do you think this is what is about to happen now? Or you feel we should just probably give more time to understand what exactly the challenge is?
Well, incidentally, in the last few weeks, one of the points that I've been trying to push across Nigerians, I've been trying to lay to Nigerians is the fact that we're in a very desperate situation right now. We have a situation where, because of the unrestrained dollar price increment, because of smuggling, and because our refineries are not working, we are at a point where the fuel subsidy that Nigeria has been paying doesn't make sense anymore. And that is one conversation that Nigerians are very reluctant to have. Of course, feedback says that then there's going to be a protest, there's going to be nation, there's going to be that. But the unfortunate part of it is that the inflation we're talking about, the subsidy we're talking about here is virtually taking over the whole budget that Nigeria has every year. The estimate for the budget for 2023, for instance, says that we're going to spend over 6.7 trillion naira on fuel subsidy. Now, look at it from this point of view. The whole total budget for next year is about 17 trillion, right?
20.
And 6.7 trillion out of 17 trillion is about 1/3 of the total budget that we have. Now, we're not talking about we're not talking about capital expenditures. We're not talking about loan repayment and stuff. And if you look at it from another angle, the amount we are paying right now on fuel subsidy is more than the total budget for health, education, and infrastructure all put together. So it doesn't make sense. It has not been sustainable before, and this is time to tell ourselves the hard truth. It is no more sustainable. And at some point when I have this conversation, I tell people something, or I try to bring it to your attention. A lot of people don't know. Somebody bought fuel at 200 naira.
Can you say that again? Can you say that again? I couldn't hear you for a moment. You said somebody did what? If you can hear me. All right, well, we have with us Tayo Adegbende, the Executive Director and Convener, Power Up Nigeria. We've been looking at the fuel scarcity that we've been experiencing here in Lagos and in other parts of the country, and we're trying to understand what the cause is. There hasn't really been any statement to that effect, except that some persons have granted interviews where they have said, alluded this to one thing or the other. Some of them talking about private tank farms and some talking about trying to strike a balance. But of course, that conversation would come up about, well, you have Lagos, which of course should have its own share. Why should Lagos share be disturbed as a result of, some balancing you want to do? Well, we'll take a break now, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation with Tayo. Stay with us. This is Business Breakfast. Glad to know you stay with us, and thank you, Tayo, for joining us again.
It's fine. It's all right.
Okay, before we went on that timeout, you were talking about the price of petroleum products. Please go ahead, please. Fuel, beg your pardon. Go ahead, please.
So I was saying, somebody in Lagos bought fuel at 200 per liter just yesterday. Are you with me?
Yes, please go ahead. I can hear you.
All right. Yeah, the person bought fuel at 200 per liter just yesterday in Lagos, and the person was complaining, and I was laughing. As far back as January this year, I've been buying fuel at 200 per liter in Ibadan. Probably the cheapest you get was about 180. I don't know how much it goes for now. Now, by the time you cross the River Niger, you get to Abuja. Yes, you probably get it at 165, which is the official rate, right? But by the time you start driving out of Abuja, you don't get it at that same price. You don't even get fuel at filling station. You probably just buy it from around the road at an average of 50 naira per liter. Now, Don't also forget that this year alone, we have spent over 4.5 trillion naira on fuel subsidy. Now, where is that subsidy going to if we are still buying fuel at 300 naira per litre across Nigeria? So, I mean, we are at that point where we need to sit down and look at it. Who are those benefiting from this fuel subsidy? Who are those that are how many Nigerians are truly benefiting from fuel subsidy, and why are we paying it? If you are paying fuel subsidy and we're having these challenges, okay, fuel subsidy is not the solution to our problem.
But when we talk about fuel subsidy, it's to a very large extent, it's quite controversial, here in Nigeria, because there are those who will tell you that the moment you remove fuel subsidy, the price of premium motor spirit will be very high, astronomically high, and then that will also have ripple effect on other things, really, because I mean it's a long one. The chain is quite long, and they are saying the ordinary Nigerians are probably going to have to suffer for it. And some persons are saying, even if you're going to suffer just for a while, but we're sure that this money, is kept in Nigeria and we're using it to do other things. What are your thoughts? How do we strike this balance? If we must remove fuel subsidy because of the challenges we're having as a result of its payment, what then must we do to communicate to the everyday Nigerian that this is important, this is something we have to do?
Let me ask you, you said Nigerians will suffer if we remove fuel subsidy.
I said there are those who are saying that.
What are Nigerians enjoying right now? Nobody can answer that. Are you with me?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Good. What are Nigerians enjoying right now? So I mean, basically what we are saying is Nigerians are not really enjoying anything as we speak right now. And if we are talking about inflation, when food inflation is about 20.7 right now, how worse do you think it can be? Again, I'm going to refer back to where I started from on this issue of fuel subsidy. It's no more working, it's no more sustainable. A third of our annual budget is going to pay subsidy. For a few people, why are we talking this 6.something trillion naira? Are we sure that we cannot set up a whole new refinery with that amount of money? So the people that are encouraging that conversation that Nigerians will suffer, Nigerians are probably the ones that are directly benefiting from the fuel subsidy payment. Not the average Nigerians that is paying 200 naira per litre, paying 250 naira per litre, paying 300 naira per litre, or spending hours queuing up at the filling station, wasting manpower, wasting energy, wasting productive time that they should put in the economy at the filling station. Is that part of the journey we're talking about? So it is not a convenient conversation, to be very honest. It is not a direct kick and start conversation, we understand. But these are part of the hard decisions. And incidentally, we are looking at the change of government next year. What Nigerians should also note, it's a regular thing. It's a cycle. A new government is coming in. They have already stopped anything about governance right now. What we're doing is politics. And that's what we're going to experience till at least May, June next year. There's definitely going to be a much higher changes in price, higher inflation and everything within that same period, until maybe we are lucky enough to have a new government that is going to put in policies in place to check these things. So Nigerians should be very careful. I believe we need to have this conversation. We need to take these hard decisions because that's the only way forward for us.
All right. Thank you so much, Adetayo, for sharing your thoughts with us on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We've been speaking with Adetayo Adegbenle, the Executive Director and Convener, Power Up Nigeria. Well, still to come after the break, Nigeria on Monday began its long journey to end hunger and achieve food security by launching the Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zones, SAPS, a program initiated by the African Development Bank, AFDB. This will allow food and agribusiness companies to locate within such zones. Well, we'll sharply scrutinizing this and looking at what possibilities this holds for the country. Stay with us.